Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Nexgen Careers Expert Talk. My name is Cecilia, and I'm the head of content creation here at Nexgen Careers, and I run these expert talks bi-weekly on LinkedIn, free for anyone to join, to come and explore careers that you might already be interested in, or that you're immersed in, or yeah, just curious about to learn more. So before I introduce today's guest, I would like to give you guys a little introduction into Nexgen Careers and what it is that we do. So Nexgen Careers is all about supporting individuals in finding success in the future world of work. So we do this by running online programs and also on-site programs in career development and in work experience. So if you're looking to gain a little bit of work experience within a new field, or if you want to work on your career development plan, or if you're looking for career coaching, we're the place to be. So feel free to reach out to me via email or LinkedIn, or go to our website, nextgencareers.co, to learn more about what it is that we do. So on to today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about game design, which is definitely one career of the future. And it all started, I guess, back in the 70s with Pong and Atari. And then from there, it's just exploded, and it's a ginormous field, and it keeps, developing every single day. So this is definitely a field that we've been anxious to dive into, and we finally nailed down an expert to come talk to us about this. So today we have Ricardo here, who is an experienced game designer with over 15 years of experience, and is currently working at Madbox. And his two main areas of expertise are the creative process to create as innovative games as possible, and then also systems design and monetization of mobile free-to-play games. He's worked as a lead designer at many industry-leading companies, and he's also has his own little studio where he creates his own games. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to welcome Ricardo into the conversation. Hello, Ricardo. How are you doing today?
Hello, Cecilia. Good. Thanks for inviting me to this expert talk. Very happy to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you. So I just thought that we start off with a simple one, just to warm up the conversation a little bit, and for people to get to know you and understand who we're talking to. So if you can just briefly introduce yourself and a little bit about your career journey and how you ended up where you are today, that would be awesome.
Sure. Well, I'm Ricardo Carretero, and yes, I have been designing games for over 15 years. I started in Mallorca. I'm from Mallorca in Spain. I was lucky, so I joined a studio that was there, probably the only studio in Mallorca that was back in time. I'm very perseverant. That's why I finally got into there. My background studies are in graphic design. I studied telecommunications and super fancy techie career that didn't fit good with my skills. I had a very hard time to finishing the technical aspect of these careers, and so I switched to graphic design, and from graphic design I started to swap into the game design thanks to this company. Yeah, my first game was on a Nintendo DS game. So back in the console days, there were no iPhones, there were no Androids, there were no, we had Nokias. And since then, I have been traveling to Canada. I work in a very small company, which was a partner with Electronic Arts. We did games for Electronic Arts. And then I moved to Buenos Aires, Argentina. There I worked at Gameloft. In Gameloft, we did mobile games, but it's still before the iPhone. So games for mobiles with buttons, with the 1, the 2, the 3, and you have the controls to move characters around. And then I formed my own studio with some friends. It was the release of the iPhone. iPhone was a new platform, a new ecosystem, and it was very easy to put games on iPhone back in the days, because you needed very cheap equipment. Basically, with a computer and an iPhone, you got enough publish it. Whether in console you need the expensive development kits, etc. I can talk about it later. So yeah, and since then I've been focusing on game design on mobile games, and more specifically in free to play. At some point back in Spain, I joined Social Point after my startup didn't go as expected. Social Point, I was the lead designer there, and I helped them transition Dragon City, one of the biggest games they have, into mobile. Yeah, and then I learned everything about how to run a business that does games, not just to create games, but running a business about games. And that's a topic that it's super important to me because it's key to keep it alive. And since then, I've been focusing on free-to-play systems and monetization. Worked at King for 4 years. And yeah, and I swap a bit from game design to gamification in other areas. It's a topic that I'm very interested in, applying game design into other areas of life. And now I'm working at Madbox. So here's where I am today, focusing on mobile games, free to play, making innovative games that are also profitable. That's my goal.
That's really cool. I think I love how you started in graphic design and ended up doing some, well, not completely different, but definitely like jump to another field. And you have so much experience, you've done so much, which I think is really cool. So I feel like we really have the right person for the conversation. But I can imagine that some of the people that are here today or that watching this interview might be students, might be people that are like interested in exploring the field of game design. So just to get like more of an insight, because it's so hard when we're exploring careers and we don't really know what a job actually entails. There's much to a title. So and you don't really learn much from that. So since we have you here, I just wanted to ask you what your actual job entails task-wise and what your day-to-day sort of looks like.
Sure. Well, first thing, the game design role changes depending on your seniority. So for example, a junior designer, probably the day-to-day will be very different to my day-to-day because I'm leading a team. So that's a different role, obviously. I would say that for designers are, like many professions, can be specialized. So for example, the day-to-day of a level designer will be different than the day-to-day of a combat designer or a systems designer, economy designer. We're all designers, but it's like doctors. Each one has its own specialty, but we all, sorry. But our goal is always provide fun to the players.
Yeah.
Independently of your role on your day-to-day, that's what we need to do. And this is still the same on free-to-play. So many people might think that this is not relevant anymore. No, fun, it's always the main driver of having an engaged audience playing your game. So, and this is what we need to achieve. Now, on my day-to-day, I have two roles. I am the lead designer of the project I'm working on, but also game lead. So I deal with other departments and communicate with other departments like data, user acquisition, etc. Because at the end of the day, you are not alone. It's not only here's the game, sell it.
No,
no,
not that easy.
No, it's a constant conversation with other departments about, hey, how data is going. Are our players enjoying the game? Are they engaged? Are they coming back at the next day? Are they, I don't know, using all the features of the game? Which ones are they not using? Why do they say in the forums, etc. So it's all having a communication with your audience and make sure you are taking the right decisions. But it's not your only ego saying, no, this is the game I want to do, and I don't care what others think, because this usually doesn't end good. But if someone is thinking about joining the industry, probably the roles they will join will be something like basic game designer or junior level designer. These are the two more classic roles. I can put very specific examples. A designer sets the rules of the game with the intention of making a fun game. What are the rules of the game? So we usually separate into core gameplay and meta systems. All right, the core gameplay is what you do the second to second. Let me put examples again. So in Candy Crush, you move one tile to another position with the hope of finding a match, and then they explode, then more tiles fall. So this is the core gameplay, and you have a goal. You have goals. You have to unlock the cherries, or you have to, you have specific goals at each level that you have to achieve. Yeah, so the game designer, let's say, decide this set of rules. So the player is gonna do these movements, and the consequences are gonna be this. So the player is gonna take these decisions. Should I move this one or this one? And it's this set of rules and constraints that make a level of Candy Crush fun, for putting an example. But it's the same in a non-casual game. If you go to Game of War, God of War 4, for example, game designer sets also these rules. There is a combat. In the combat, there are enemies. The enemies behave this way. You behave this way. You have these attacks. You have those powers, and you interact with your enemies in this way, etc. God of War is another game very different from mobile, but obviously we both have game designers. It's only that the role is different. A level designer basically comes with the rules of the game are already in place and needs to create content. Candy Crush has now, for example, 5,000 levels. God of War, yes, because it's been for 10 years out. So and every level should have something unique or different, But the level designers provide a lot of feedback and insights, but they stick to the rules previously defined. They don't change the match 3 aspect. They don't change the goals. They just, with these constraints, with these Lego pieces, try to build new levels that feel fun. And this is again the same for War. For example, a level designer in God of War, what does is you set up the amount of enemies that will be in a combat arena. We'll set up the paths to get there. We'll set up the difficulty of these enemies, adjusting the difficulty so it's balanced, the player skill, etc. So basic game design is about setting the rules of the game. Level design is about creating content with these rules of the game. And then I can go on and on. Systems design is about the progression of the game, how the player progress. For example, after 1 hour or after 1 day or after 3 days, what is he or she doing in the game after this period of time? Because if you keep it the same as the first day, probably they will be bored. So you need to evolve your game as the player plays.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, continue. If you have more, then go.
So going back to what my day-to-day is, because I am responsible of the design of this game. Basically, I sync with another designer that is on the team. We work together. We discuss a lot of things. We do a lot of mock-ups on the screen. Like, that's why my experience on graphic design is very, very handy. So you do mock-ups of what the players will see on the screen, especially the UI. It's very, very important in mobile gaming. Like the information, you have a small screen and a lot of information. How do we communicate this information to the player? Is he doing good? The visual feedback, is she doing bad? Is she progressing properly? Has she finished a level? How is she upgrading her character? It's, and it's all through screens, buttons, text, but make it colorful and nice. So so it looks fine. There are more games which are more UI heavy, and other games which are not very UI heavy, user interface heavy. At the moment, I'm working on a game which is very, very heavy in interface. So we need to do a lot of mockups to make sure that everything is understandable and clear. And communicating with this other designer, we work together, and also with the rest of the team. So we said, and then is the not so fancy aspect of the leading role, which is like setting sprint plans, setting the sprints. Like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, we're gonna work on these features. And the goals will be to have this and this and this ready while we keep working on this and this and this. And there is a lot of chats and alignment with the team that is required. That's also a very, very important aspect of the job.
Definitely. And you mentioned so many different skill sets that are needed within your role. And I can imagine also, I wanted to ask you actually, because you mentioned like a lot of different tasks and fields and UI and interface and design. And like, do you do all of those things, or do you have several designers on your team that do different things? For instance, like the UI design or the UX design, and or is it just you and your
Yeah.
colleague in this case?
In this case, it's me and my colleague, and that's kind of a standard in a small mobile game, you know. Well, it's not a small mobile, it's not small, but the mobile gaming, with some exceptions, usually teams are maybe 10, 20 members. There are, you have like
And that's a small team.
big, that's a small team.
Okay.
And you can have teams of 200 people working on a mobile game.
Yeah.
Really, you can have those, because mobile games are like very profitable. So if you think that because there is a smaller screen, the team is smaller, that's not the case. Mobile games have teams equivalent to PlayStation 5 games sometimes.
Wow.
Or PlayStation 4 games. It depends on how heavy on graphics you want to go, or how hyper casual you're going to go. There are teams that could be 3 people, and 3 people in a week also can release a game.
Yeah.
Right. So the spectrum is super wide. You can have super reduced teams releasing a game in a week, and you can have super huge teams releasing a game in 3 years.
Yeah.
It depends on the business case. If you work with a big IP, then usually it's like big team. Spider-Man mobile game, you know, it's a big team doing the game. If you work on something indie, it's a small team.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
And sorry, answering your question about skill sets. Yes, it requires a lot of different skill sets. What I do is mock-ups, and mock-ups are not final art. Then these mock-ups go to a person that is specifically in the team to do that in a beautiful and more understandable way. But this person needs to understand exactly what we need from the player. We need the players to check this information, take this decision, and do this action. And here's a mock-up of how I would do it. But this doesn't mean this is the best way to do it. And then this UI, UX designers handle doing that. But all the rest of the skills, it's actually what gives you the experience, basically. Through designing games again and again and again, you learn about level design a bit here. You learn about managing a team there. You learn about handling a productive meeting. So you need to learn a lot of stuff that at the end of the day make you a senior instead of a junior. It's not only your hard skills. It's not like you could be the best mathematician in the world, but you could be a terrible workmate.
Yeah.
You know, it's a balance of hard skills and soft skills. The more management position you are, the more soft skills you require. So it becomes much more important.
Yeah.
Learning how to delegate work. We have this. Usually, you want your ideas to be the best ones. Usually, you want your designs to be the best ones.
Right.
Usually, so as creative director, which I'm kind of in this project, it's also my responsibility to. This is a sentence, by the way. I am copying from Anne Hennig, the creative director of Uncharted. I loved what she said about the role of a creative director. Is I have a vision, and I let the team elevate it. So I think the game should be like this, but maybe you have an idea and it's better than mine. Exactly. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. But if I hear an idea and it's worse, or I consider it's worse, it's my responsibility to say, I don't like this one. Let's move and move to another one. Yeah. So it's about being super open for feedback, because it really makes a difference. The games that are done by one single mind usually they could be super good and unique games, but most of them fail. Most of them fail because it's a game for you. You know, there are exceptions, obviously. when you make a game and you listen to everyone in your team about what they like about the game they're building, what they don't like, what they would expect about this game, etc., then the game, it starts to become a much cooler game. But obviously you need to keep it on track, or it can become a Frankenstein. So you need to define the pillars. This is a game about this, and it will have these elements and this. But then inside this playground, there is plenty of room to explore, innovate, and change.
Definitely. And I guess that the hard skills are like important to learn, but I also like how you highlight that the soft skills are also important, even though that game design is a technical field, and that you still need to work with people, and you still need to learn how to manage people and project manage and all of these things, which I don't know, but usually when it comes to education and within these fields, that's not necessarily something that you talk about. So like gaining your experience, like working with people, I guess is key here as in any other field.
Yes, absolutely. And even if game design is it could be considered as a hard skill, let's say, like thinking on the fun and the systems and the level design. At the end of the day, your day-to-day job is convince others. Convince others that this is the right direction to follow. Convince your investor, convince your programmers, not your, but your team programmers, convince. And the way of convincing people is usually not, this is the way to go, you listen to me.
No.
The way is more a negotiation. It's more like, okay, I've done these proposals. I believe this has this, but it's poor at that. This, I like it, but unfortunately, this doesn't accomplish this. But I have this, so because of A and B, I have decided to go C. What do you think? And this is a much different conversation than going into a meeting and saying, here's the design. It's a much different conversation. You tell the story of how you get there and what was your train of thought on your proposals and how you went in the final proposal. And when you tell this story, people usually react much better, like, oh yeah, I understand why you have done it this way. And they have a different understanding of what you have done.
And that's another skill, storytelling, putting that in there.
And that's another skill. Exactly. Yes. I've been practicing a lot with Google Slides lately, so I recommend it a lot. Google Slides is basically the PowerPoint, the free PowerPoint of Google, and these Google Slides are great to communicate concepts in a simple way. So it has several tools that allow you to drive your audience. So when you're presenting an idea or a pitch of a game, you have an audience. It could be investors, it could be your publisher, it could be your friends, or it could be your own team. But there is an audience there. And you communicate what you want to do. And the first of all is that it needs to be understandable. It cannot be super technical, that because you lose your audience. Imagine it's like a movie where for 10 minutes nothing happens and you are lost. You lose your connection. So your audience during a meeting is the same. You need to take them to your world, make them understand what you are understanding, and this is when the productive meetings happen. When you are all in the same page, you know what you are trying to build, and then everyone can all brains become like power that help framing a better game.
That's great advice. I also love Google Slides for various reasons.
Super useful.
It's a really good tool. So moving on to the next question. As I mentioned before, there might be a lot of people joining in today that are interested to enter the field or are already in the field. But we've talked to before, like in previous conversations before this interview, about like some things that are going on in the game design market. And if just to like highlight some of those things that we've been talking about, like partly trends that are going on today that are going to shape in the future, but also how we can adapt as potential game designers to better like land a job in the future. So what are some things that we should keep in mind when we're moving into this field today in 2021?
Sure. The industry it's evolving very quickly. It's changing constantly since it's a young industry. It started, as you say, in the 70s or maybe slightly earlier, but it doesn't have more than 50 years really. And in these 50 years, a lot of things have changed. So let me, as an example, for everyone to understand, it's like cinema or music. You know, all industries evolved. Now less people are going to the cinema, and more people have Netflix or HBO at home. So basically, this is a shift into the business model of making films. You know, so the same thing happened with mobile. From the arcades were like you put 25 cents and you play a game, and if you die, you could play more. That's actually the most similar to free to play, but then it evolved into consoles and home entertainment. And then people bought a big console or a PC, and then you bought the games in retail, in a box, on CDs or cartridges, and then evolved into online. Suddenly, actually, it was one of the first industries to evolve into the full online. You could download together with music, maybe, but you could. I remember having a Steam and thinking, wow, now I can download any game anytime. I don't need to go to the shop to buy a PC game.
Right.
That was a massive win for me, especially if you are from a small town or a. So sorry, I'm making a bit of a history to make you understand that premium evolved. So you had premium in boxes, and you had premium games that you paid upfront in also online. Then the free to play, then the mobile market appeared, the mobile platform, and with the mobile platform, the free to play model. So think about it. How many people have a PS4, which is the best sold console ever, if I believe, like 100 million people, maybe. I don't know the number, okay, but it's around that. The Switch, the Nintendo Switch, is about 40 million units. But when you compare these numbers to the people who have a phone, like 3 billion people has a phone, and it's growing up as development countries adapt smartphones as their main phone. So this is a 20 times more bigger audience than console games. And then they make games free. So you could play for free, and then you can make in-app purchases inside the game, which for many people is not free at all, but it's another business model.
Right.
It's like a mall. Yeah, you can park free and you can get into the mall, but obviously what they expect from you when you go to the mall is to buy something, a clothes or a Coke or whatever. And so the free to play now is dominating the industry. Its revenue is bigger than the console and PC together.
Wow.
Which is about 60 billion a year.
Wow.
And it's growing year after year because new players joining the mobile party.
Exactly.
The developers, more business models. So basically, it also has many advantages. You can put the game, you can work from any country in the world, and your game is worldwide available. That's a benefit of all online businesses. You know, you don't have to be in a place. All right. So not only, why is this important? Because what I have seen is that people that want to do games usually are console players. You know, I love games. I love my console games or my PC games, Steam games. But then I want to find a job in the industry. And the reality is that it really depends on in which country you are. For example, if you are in the US, probably you will find both console and mobile development studios. But if you are in Spain, there is only mobile free-to-play studios. Not only, there are some studios that do console games, but there are very few. So obviously the opportunities are very, very much limited,
right,
than on mobile games. So you could have 9 out of 10 game development roles are on mobile right now in Spain. But again, this may probably change. In Japan, probably console is also much bigger.
Right.
So depend on your country you are. My message here is that basically the cake is now equal between free to play and premium. Mobile is dominated by App Store and Google Play.
Yeah.
But console PC are very, very split. So you have Xbox, you have PlayStation Store, you have PC, you have Nintendo, etc. So this is usually a cause of frustration for many people looking for a job, because they kind of expect to join a big studio doing awesome console games first time. And this is not the reality. The reality is that first jobs usually are not very well paid. Unfortunately, good. It's a good salary, all right. It's a good salary. You can make a living out of it, but they are on smaller studios. So you have this. Imagine like I'm gonna make a movie when I'm a director. I'm gonna be the next Steven Spielberg. Yes, but you start doing a short film.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same analogy. You can expect in the long term to participate in a big production, in a big movie, in a big video game. That is very cool. But be humble, start with your feet on the earth. Try to help a small studio.
Yeah.
Try to help a small studio, because also what happens is that this is something that is happening. Big studios that have a lot of cash, Activision or EA, they usually want seniors, not juniors. Why? Because they can afford them. So if you can afford it, who you want to pay? The one that knows how to do it, or the one you need to teach how it's done?
Yes. Sorry to interrupt you, but this is also something that I want to touch on. Like juniors or people like graduating school and turning out to get a job, but they can't get jobs because they don't have experience and stuff. Like, is that a thing?
Yes.
Is that something that you see happening?
Yes. I've written some LinkedIn articles about it, and it's very ungrateful. Unfortunately, it's a situation. It's this like fish eating its own tail. I don't know if you say this in English.
Yeah, it's like it's a never-ending cycle, sort of.
I don't get hired. I never get experience. I don't get hired. I never get experience. I don't get hired. And yes, this is happening. The reason it happens is because exactly 9 out of 10 job availables, usually they request senior designers or senior programmers. It's not only limited to designers. What happens with the rest of people studying? So here's my advice for them. Find a match, 1-2 more people, do a small game. I'm going to be very blunt on this. Copy any existing game. Go copy, because people want to innovate before understanding how a game is done. I don't know how to do a game, but I'm going to innovate. And that's very pretentious, really, very, very pretentious. Big studios copy games. What they do is innovate in a specific aspect of the game. So I'm going to take this game, I'm going to do a different setting, like now it's sci-fi, now it's medieval, or I'm going to tweak this mechanic. This mechanic is going to be, but 90% of the game remains the same, because innovating, it's one of the highest risks in the industry. Don't get me wrong, innovation is super important, but people think innovation is doing something completely different. No, innovating is doing something that your audience already likes and improving it. That's the secret of innovation. So if the big studios do that, why don't do that the juniors? And that's my advice to all of you. I have faced many times junior teams with these crazy ideas that are totally unachievable for them.
Right.
As I mentioned, Steven Spielberg, before doing movies, started with short films, and before short films, started with a home camera recording his neighbor or something like that. All right.
Exactly. Recording his neighbor.
So ideally, the situation will be that all the studios require junior designers, and they train them and they learn with the professionals and so on. And you know the funny thing? I had a conversation with someone which was in this situation, and I was trying to help. And he said, yeah, but what I want is to be with other senior people that teach me. And I thought, like, yeah, so even juniors want seniors.
Right.
you know. So please understand the situation. Don't just judge it. Everyone wants to be taught, and everyone needs a figure to follow and say, okay, this is how things are done. And if you find in this situation where you cannot find a job because you are junior and nobody hires, think about it, like, why I'm not getting a job in the industry. Usually if it's art, it's your profile is not super good, your portfolio is not very good, so so you had a better candidate. That's life. That's it's what it is.
Right.
Now, I have been in the position of recruiting people several times, and some of the elements I have been taking look at is one, proactivity. So for example, if you tell me, yeah, I have been 3 years and I haven't found a job, that's why I don't have a portfolio, it's like, you had a lot of free time. You could have done a lot of stuff. What you are sending me is a signal that you really need someone telling you what to do, or you won't do anything.
Right.
And that's a terrible signal to send to a company.
Right.
Because company want autonomous people that solve problems, that deliver, etc. So if you have free time looking for a job, invest in yourself, invest in your portfolio, learn Unity, make a scene in Unity. Everything is free. Everything is in YouTube. Unity you can download. You have assets for free. You have tutorials for free. I mean, you have the media, you have the means. So go there, because it will. Next time you have an interview, you say, okay, what you've done this year? So I learned this, I did that. Here's a demo. I prepare myself. I read these books and I apply these theories to these documents. Even if you are not a developer, you cannot work or you cannot draw properly. Maybe you can write and make Google Slides, make a presentation. I have 3 ideas of games that I would like to present. So there's always something you can do. That's my first advice for juniors. The second is find a match with some. If you are a game designer, find an artist, find a programmer. This is the 3 people that you need. You don't need much more to do a game. And now evaluate your strengths. Take a game that it's already there in the market, that it's simple enough you can copy it. Try to innovate in some of their aspects and release it. Why I'm saying release it? Because it feels super complex, but it's not really. It's not. You have some software that you download and then you publish it on the App Store and or the Google Play.
And you can do that for free, or
25 euros a year on Google Play.
It's like hosting a website. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So you can do that, and even if the result is not amazing, it's not an amazing game, it's like, the next time you go to an interview and they ask you, do you have a profile? Then you have something to show. You say yes, and you can be totally honest, because people don't expect a junior to have like a AAA quality game. Obviously, you're a junior. But if you said, yeah, I finished my career, I've been looking for a job for 6 months, and this time I have done this, and I met with two other people, and I released this. And actually, this is the most important message to sell. With other people, we manage to start and finish something, because this is the reality of the job in the industry. You will work with a team with the goal of releasing something.
Yeah.
So if you prove this in advance, the recruiters probably will react much positively about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I hope these advices are helpful to anyone looking for a job in the industry.
Yeah, I think so too. I guess the ones who are in the call can respond in the chat if they found it useful. I did, for sure. And I think that the advice that you gave applied to a lot of other industries, not only game design. So yeah, I think that this is applicable to basically any industry, being proactive and showing what you can do and all of these things.
Yeah, and also it's positioning, the recruiters or companies are not your enemy, really. I mean, I've seen people mad at them, like, nobody has hired me for 12 months, and
maybe it's not like them, maybe it's you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. And the worst thing you can do is making it public in LinkedIn, you know, which is
Right.
where all the recruiters are looking for talent. And if you are this person that complains publicly about a company, probably they want that profile.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. And I wanted to ask you just quickly one last question, because we're talking about a lot of like the job role in itself and how to land a job and stuff like that and advice within that. But I also wanted to like look a little bit into the future and how you see the future will evolve within the game design industry. If we can do like, I don't know, 3 minutes of that, and then we'll move on to the Q&A.
Yes, actually, it's a starting now, but the whole crypto blockchain thing is gonna be huge in gaming. It's gonna be huge. I'm doing my own research. My personal projects are in this direction. Let me explain it in a very simple way, because blockchain has this connotation of I have no idea what is this. All right. At least it had for me. So I can imagine a lot of people are like, I don't really understand. All right. The whole decentralized economy that blockchain is trying to provide to the world is to change from a paradigm where players buy things to the developer. So for example, I do a free-to-play game and I have a shop in the game, and in the shop I sell gems for making speed ups, and I send skins so your avatar looks cool. For example, Epic Fortnite, each season delivers a lot of vanity items, and by playing you will get these vanity items and they are yours. All right, are they really yours? Because you cannot sell them. You cannot sell them. You cannot give them away to anyone. You know, you just buy them, and then they are.
That's it. Yeah.
And what the blockchain is bringing into gaming is, okay, I don't get the revenue from people buying from me. I will get the revenue from the transactions of the people by themselves. So imagine I've been playing this game for 2 years, and I had it's a decoration game, or no, it's a much more nerdy thing. It's a sci-fi game with spaceships. All right, and you have built this massive Death Star that cost you 1 year of work and infinite resources that you collected, different planets. Okay, what about you selling it to other player that wants to save all this time but wants this Death Star? And blockchain allows that. Players now can sell items among themselves. Sell and buy, obviously. So there is one game and there is one market, and the idea is to connect both. So in your game, you can do this, and in the market, you can interexchange value with other players without a centralized element, which usually is the game developer.
That's really cool, and something to keep in mind for the future. Blockchain is going to be everywhere, even in the video games. Yeah,
exactly, because this interchange of value is applicable to everything, not only to games. It's applied to
the art world, for instance. And
yes, and obviously there is the metaverse. It's very fashionable. Metaverse is actually the consequence of Web 3.0 and blockchain. It's all the same thing, even if it looks like different thing. Metaverse, then is VR and AR. I'm a really big believer in AR more than VR. I have a VR set and I play some games, and they are very cool experiences, but the technology has to evolve a lot.
Yeah.
But AR, since it's this mix between reality and it's augmented reality plus extra layers of info. First of all, I know Apple is working on the AR Google set. The AR Google's glasses. Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly, and Apple has a track of good design history. You know, they know what the audience want. If you are gonna buy a pair of glasses on AR, probably they will do a fancy ones. Some glasses that you are not embarrassed to wear on the street.
Right.
That's the minimum.
You can be nerdy and stylish, or
Exactly. That's what Apple achieves, right?
Yeah.
Nerdy, stylish people.
Exactly.
So when you have the biggest company in the world betting super big for one technology, it's for a reason. And it will open a lot of possibilities, like you wear your glasses on the street and there are, and you see other information. Imagine playing Pokemon Go, but without the mobile in your face, just it's there, and not only for gaming, but a lot of serious games as well. So yeah, I think AR technology is going to be huge. I think VR too, but it will take longer. And I think blockchain is already here and it's going to explode big time. There is one trend now in gaming, which is not monetizing the players, monetizing their audience. Actually, it's happening on Twitch already and this channel. So games have this power of bringing a lot of audience to the table.
Right.
And so what happens when you have a big audience? Look at football, look at basketball, you start monetizing the audience. And this is where the economy flows, the money from the audience, which enjoy a game or enjoy the experience of watching a game. And this is how the sport people gets paid. This is already happening with League of Legends, with Dota, Fortnite, Counter-Strike. There are championships, etc. And the way they monetize is not through the game itself, it's through the audience.
Yeah.
Through the audience watching people playing the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a lot of interesting futures. I mean, it's a industry that doesn't stop to evolve all the time. And that's why it's super interesting, but also hard to catch up.
Yeah, definitely to stay on top of all the information. But I guess that's important when you're moving into any industry, to stay on top of what's going on and to be up to date.
Exactly. You need to be you need to be an expert on everything. Don't be scared. But you choose your path, but be aware that there are other things out there, and sometimes there are opportunities that you should grab and go in different direction.
Yeah, great. Okay, I think that's the end of my questions. So I am gonna pause the recording and say goodbye to everyone who's been watching the recording until here. It's been great to have you. And then we will continue with the Q&A off camera or off recording. All right. Okay.